Attorney General, DA. You don't care who these people are. You don't care enough who these people are. You probably know your senator, you probably know your congressman, everybody knows the president. But the people who are deciding which laws they will and will not enforce, those are the races that matter, and they're the ones the left has been all over. Joining me now to talk about that and other things is Curtis Hill, a former AG of Indiana. Curtis, why don't people take enough care into AG, into DA? I mean, you were Attorney General of Indiana. That's a really big deal. I bet you could walk through the mall without getting recognized.
Well, not too much, but maybe so. I think people need to pay more attention, especially today, because DAs have a lot of power, and rightfully so. It's a unique position where you make a determination of accountability, and what we need in America is accountability. But what's been happening in the last several years has been alarming, because we've had DAs who have openly, particularly in big cities, openly determined that they're going to decide what laws to avoid or what laws to not hold people accountable for. And we're seeing this in our major cities and all over the country, and it's resulting in an uptick in crime and lawlessness all over the place.
Curtis, I'll get into some of the details on the crime in a minute, but I did want to ask, because you brought it up, when I tell people this, and when it comes across the news, this DA is not going to prosecute this person, they're not going to prosecute that person. I get this a lot from people. They email me and say, Jesse, how can that be legal? Or how are they allowed to do that? Curtis, how are they allowed to do that?
Well, they're not. I mean, but I want to be clear. There's a thing called prosecutorial discretion that allows a prosecutor to review a particular case and make a determination within the evidence and the facts of that case of how to proceed. And all prosecutors have that discretion. And I believe 100% in that. You need to have discretion on how to move forward in an individual or particular case. That's different than what's happening now. What's happening now, our prosecutors are running for office on the mantle of, I'm not going to proceed on a whole variety of laws, whether it's I'm not going to prosecute prostitution or drug crimes or particular crimes that I don't like. Well, that invades the province of the General Assemblies in the states, and that's a no-no. That's the area of legislation where the people who are closest to the legislature, they make that determination of how to proceed. Prosecutors do not have the right to veto the law.
You brought up the cities earlier, and I'll tell you, this frustrates me when I read stats like this. Minnesota, everyone remembers Minneapolis. They were the whole beginning of that Black Lives Matter thing. They released their crime report for 2020. The numbers are they're unbelievable. There were 58% increase in murders, 58%, 62% increase in officers assaulted on the job, 54% increase in arson, 55% increase in the value of property stolen. Curtis, how could people not have seen this coming? Where were everyone realizes it today. Wow, defund the police is probably a bad idea. Where were the sane voices back when the hysteria was getting turned up to 1,000 degrees?
Well, I'll tell you what, Jesse, I was one of those sane voices, because I was writing articles about just that. Be careful what you ask for, Seattle. Be careful what you ask for, Minneapolis. If you don't want the police, guess what? The police will stand down and crime will move in. You need the police to block these avenues of crime. So it was very predictable of what was happening, and we're seeing the fruits of that effort today. Crime is spiking all over the place, primarily because we had areas that said they didn't want police officers. Then they treat police officers horribly. When we saw the rioting last summer, we saw chiefs of police that were told to stand down by their officials. Stand down, let the rioting happen, let the looting happen. A base lawlessness that has encouraged this type of behavior. Now, the murder rate's up, the violent crime rate's up. You know, Jesse, for years, we saw a downtick in the murder rate in this country, a 30-year low, 50% reduction in homicide. And what were people complaining about? That we had mass incarceration. We had too many people in jail. Well, what they don't realize, Jesse, is that the vast majority of crime in this country occurs by a very small number of people. And if you can effectively deal with that number of people, i.e. lock up the multiple offenders and the repeat offenders, you're going to reduce crime and increase public safety.
Okay, let's dwell on what you talked about before for just a moment. They were at a 30-year low. We had these murders down. Why? Why were they down? What were we doing right? We know what we're doing wrong now. We'll get back to that. What were we doing right before?
We got tough on crime. from 1970s to the early 1990s, crime was out of control. And so what happened? We started putting legislation, 3 strikes, you're out. We started targeting multiple offenders. The vast majority of crimes are repeat offenders. So if you hit people with habitual offender statutes and you're firm on that, you're going to do the job. We locked more people up. So yes, we filled up our prisons during that period of time. But by filling up our prisons, we looked to see the murder rate went down 50% over a 30-year period. Rape and violent crime went down 30 to 40% during that time period. What that means is we had the right people in jail, the people who were causing the problems. And then we've gone through this cycle where people have said, oh, we had the wrong people in jail, too many people in jail. We've got to let this person out. We've got to let that person out, without regard to whether or not they have earned the right to be back out on the street. And the result of that has been an effort to allow more people who commit crimes to be free.
Where are we going wrong when it comes to our prison system? Or are we going wrong? Are we doing it right? Should it be more harsh? Should it be nicer? Where are we going wrong with it?
Well, we had it right. We want to be particular about who goes to prison. Not everyone needs to go to jail. Certainly first offenders, we want to give them consideration. We want to give people a second chance. But when we have people who have first chance, second chance, third chance, fourth chance, at some point we draw the line. In the 90s, we said 3 strikes. That makes sense to me. You have 3 felonies. We dink with you on the first one. We dink with you with the second one. You get a third one, boom, you're gone. Bye-bye. That's how we have to approach these things. We want to be fair. We want to be firm. We want to be thorough. We want to make sure the right people are in prison, but we need to hold people accountable to keep people safe and to keep our environments fresh.
Question about the future of policing, because I saw this. The DC's Mayor Muriel Bowser, they just requested 170 additional officers. Well, they already cut their police budget massively, and we're seeing other cities trying to do this now too. I guess we need some more cops. My question, Curtis, is if you're a cop, especially if you're a talented cop, and we want smart, talented cops, why in the world would you go back? Why would you buy this? If I was a cop, I'd be moving to the Florida or Texas suburbs, and I'd be a cop out there. Why would I ever be a cop in D.C. now?
It's a real problem, Jesse. We take police officers, we give them a badge, we give them a gun, and we give them the authority to protect us, and we say, you may have to put your life on the line to do so. And then when they make decisions that are split decisions, very difficult decisions, life and death decisions, that in fact involve their mental health and impact their families, we don't stand behind them. Sure, police officers make mistakes. Some police officers go over the line, and when they do, we need to act decisively. But we need to be in a position to recognize that police, by and large, in this country, do a phenomenal job of keeping us safe against all odds. And overreacting and assessing that all police officers should be painted with the same broad stroke is absolutely ridiculous. And in 2019, America's got 330 million people in this country, and we had 1,000 civilians who were shot by police. The vast majority of those were justified shootings. 330 million people, a little over 1,000 shootings, justifiable. Now, we have to look at the statistics and say the police are doing their jobs, making sure that when a bad apple takes place, we concentrate on the bad act of that particular officer, but we have to support our police. We have to make sure that they're defended, that they understand and are protected from lawsuits, from all the type of acrimony that they've been receiving. Because you're right, why would somebody want to be a police officer under these circumstances?
Hey, thanks so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and like and subscribe. You heard me. Like it, subscribe. You'll get a lot more of it and a lot more of me.